Welcome to Flow. Let's get started. Today we'll start off lying down. Bend your knees, knock your knees together, bring one hand to your belly, one hand to your heart, and start to bring more awareness to the movement of your breath. With every inhale, feel your belly and your chest rise. And every exhale, allow yourself to sink a little deeper into your mat. Bring your hands to your side, and then start to lift your hips up and go through some easy, gentle bridges here. Just lifting your hips up and then lowering your hips down. And now we're gonna articulate this a little bit more. Bring your hands to your hips and try to only move through your pelvis. So you tuck the pelvis under and then arch through the spine. Maybe the hips drop down to the ground, but try to keep everything else nice and still. And you can use your hands as a tactile tool to find rotation and movement in the pelvis. Find the tuck of your pelvis and then find a little arch through your spine. And maybe your hips tap down to the mat with that, or maybe they don't. Keep pushing with your feet down into the ground. Take a few more of these. Just find some movement in the spine and start to articulate through the pelvis. You even feel a little activation in the core. And now lower your hips all the way down to the ground and start to bring this into more of a wave-like motion. So as you lift from the upper spine, think of moving like a wave. Think of like undulating through your spine. And again, you can use your hands as your hips, but this is a little more free movement here. Lower the upper back, lower the hips, and then lift. And take this a few more times. Feeling a little bit of activation into the back body, the posterior chain. And lower your hips back down to the ground. Bend your knees. Bring your hands out to the side. And then let your knees fall to the right. And then windshield your knees over to the left and just continue to move from side to side. Easy, gentle twist. Your upper body may move a little with this as well. That's okay. You're just starting to get a little more movement, rotation through your spine, going side to side. Take this one more time. Bring your knees back into center. Rock and roll yourself up. We're moving to a tabletop position. Bring your shoulders right over your wrists, your hips over your knees. Start to move through a full cat and cow. So on your inhale, drop your belly, lift your gaze, lift your chin, and on your exhale, do the opposite. Push into the ground, dome through your upper back, and just keep that motion going. Getting a lot of nice, juicy movement into this spine. A very gentle warm-up that progresses, that moves a little more. And if you want to find a little more fluidity into this movement, almost like a circular cat and cow, you can find that for yourself. Take one more set and then move back to neutral tabletop and gently lower onto your forearms. Extend your right leg so it comes back long behind you, and then lift your right leg up. So you may find a little bit of an arch through your spine. And then on an exhale, pull your right knee to your chest. So you're finding contraction through the upper spine, and continue to move through these two postures. So again, we're finding some nice fluidity into the spine, but now adding one leg. And by using your leg, using your right leg, try to get it up even just a little bit higher to add a little more arch through the spine, a little more release. We're doing that on purpose here. Push down into your forearms. And you can incorporate your head and your neck as well. And then lower your right knee down to the ground. We switch. Extend your left leg, lift your left leg up, maybe a little lift of the chin, and then exhale, pull your left knee to your chest. And continue to move through these two postures. Lift the chin, and then exhale, pull your knee to your chest. And again, extend, lift the chin, exhale, pull your knee to your chest. Take this a couple more times with your breath. Push down into your forearms, and then meet back with both of your knees down to the ground, your back and your forearms. We're going to move into some shoulder activation by coming into a dolphin pose. So you're down on your forearms. find an arch through your spine, lift your chin, then flip your toes under, and on your exhale, lift your knees, lift your hips into your dolphin pose. We're gonna be moving between those two. Soften your knees to the ground, find an arch, a lift through the chin, and then exhale, flip your toes, lift your hips, dolphin pose. And continue to move through these two postures, lower the knees, arch the spine, lift the chin. Exhale, dolphin pose, lift the hips, maybe find a little bit of contraction. And continue to move through these two postures, maybe finding some circular motion or wave-like motion as you come through. If your breath isn't exactly matching, that's okay. Take one more time and then bring yourself up to stand on your knees. Step your right foot so it comes in front of you. So you're coming into a 90-90 lunge position. Bring your hands to your hips and then start to isolate your pelvis. Tuck your pelvis forward and then release it back. And then you can use your hands on your hips to kind of guide your pelvis, guide your hips forwards and backwards. And then every time that you take that tuck of your pelvis, lower your chin down to your chest. That's going to give you a little deeper opening into the front of your left hip flexor. And this is a little tricky for the balance as well. So if you need to use a wall or something nearby, feel free to do that. Now hold the tuck of your pelvis, hold the chin to your chest, interlace your fingers and push your palms forward. So you're really tucking through the pelvis while you push the space between your shoulder blades back behind you. And then rotate your fingertips, your palms, over to the right diagonal and continue to broaden through the space between your shoulder blades. Breathe here. Bring your hands back to center and then rotate over to the left. And continue to think of that broadening that you're creating between your shoulder blades. Bring your hands back to center. Sit up nice and tall. Goal post your arms. Find a little bit of a back bend here. Lift your chest up to the ceiling. Bring your hands down to the ground. Step your left foot forward into a ragdoll forward fold. Soften through your knees. Shake your head. Maybe take an easy sway of your torso from side to side. And then slowly roll yourself up to stand. Bend your knees and bring your body all the way up. Stack through the vertebrae as you come up to stand. And then once you're here, take a little time to move through your shoulders, maybe move through your head and your chest. Some big shoulder rolls in each direction can feel really nice. Bring your feet so they're apart. Bend your knees a lot and come into a chair pose. We're gonna move into some circular spinal movement. So I want you to think of lowering the chest down and then contracting through the spine, ripple up through the spine, and then take that again. Now you can use your hands on your knees for a lot of leverage here. The legs are definitely involved, but we want to think more than anything about the upper body. Really allow your head and your neck to go. Push your chest forward and feel this undulation that you can create through the spine. Find what feels good to you. You can even close your eyes and just kind of come inward. May feel a little bit funky, but just keep going with it. Just let it be. And take a couple more of these, just moving through it, maybe finding a little more fluidity through the spine, through the neck, through the hips. And then stand up tall, reach your arms up overhead, find a big back bend. Lower down, forward fold, hands down, feet back, high plank position. From your high plank, lower your hips down to the ground, but try to keep your toes tucked under for a variation of an upward facing dog. And then press into your hands to move yourself back into downward facing dog. And we're gonna continue to move through these two postures. So think of rippling through your spine, roll forward to plank, but then keep lowering the hips, lift the chest, push down into your palms. And then push into your palms to lift your hips up. And do that again. Ripple yourself forward, lower your hips, push your chest, your heart through, and then exhale, downward facing dog. And take this just a couple more times, moving at your own pace, on your own breath. Really think of rippling through the heart as you bring yourself forward. And again, ripple forward, drop your hips, push your chest forward and through as you lift the chin, and exhale, downward facing dog. Lower your knees down to the ground and bring yourself to stand on your knees. We're gonna take all of that on the second side. Step your left foot forward into a 90-90 lunge, and you can bring your hands to rest on your hips. Start to move through your pelvis here, tuck the pelvis under, and then arch through the spine. And then add on to that as you tuck your pelvis, lower your chin to your chest. You can feel a little bit of extra pull into the front of your right hip flexor. And continue to move through these positions. Move nice and slow so you can find a lot more control here. And really acknowledge the sensation you feel, the difference you feel from one posture to the other. And if you're having a little trouble balancing, feel free to use a wall. Now hold the next one in your contraction, chin to chest. Interlace your fingers, push them forward so the palms are pressing away from you, but you're really tucked under through the pelvis. Now rotate your palms over to the left diagonal of your mat and keep thinking of that sensation of broadening the space between your shoulder blades. It's a little tricky for the balance when we start moving from side to side, so if you fall out of it, just come right back into it. Keep expanding the space, and then rotate your palms so now they're coming over to the right diagonal, and this one is even a little funkier. Again, if you fall out of it, just come back into it. Come back through center, take one more moment. Sit up nice and tall. Open your elbows, goalpost arms. Give yourself a little bit of a back bend here. Lift your chest, your heart up towards the ceiling. Bring your hands down to frame your left foot. Step your right foot forward. You're back in a rag doll. Soften through your knees. And then slowly, once again, roll yourself up to stand. Stack through the spine, stack through the vertebrae. Shoulders, chin, and gaze are last to arrive. We're gonna take our little undulating spine once again. So bend your knees, bring your hands to your thighs, and find this movement again. We're gonna move through this about 10 times. Just let it feel good. Maybe close your eyes. You can slide your hands up and down your thighs. Think of sending your hips really far back. Just allow the spine to arch as much as you can. You want to think of your back like a wave, like a big capital S, just waving around. Try to find release in the jaw, the eyebrows, the shoulders as you're moving through this. You can go a little quicker, a little slower, whatever feels best in your body. Take a couple more rounds moving through. And then after your last one, come on up to stand. Reach your arms up overhead. Push your hips forward, back bend. Forward fold, release down. Bring your hands down, step your feet back into a high plank. And then lower your knees down. We're coming all the way down onto your front into a Sphinx pose. Slide your fingers forward, press your forearms, your elbows into the mat. And then think of energizing your chest forward, spread your fingers. You could stay here or you could press into your palms and lift your elbows up off the ground. Coming into a seal pose. Allowing a little deeper opening into the front of your body. And then slowly release all the way back down. Roll over onto your back, however you need to get there. Bring your feet flat to the ground, push your hips up into your bridge pose. And then just pause and breathe here, the same bridge pose we found at the beginning of the sequence. And then lower your hips. Now we're gonna take another bridge pose, or if you feel comfortable, you can push yourself up into a full wheel, a full back bend. So you find what's appropriate for your body today, whatever you need. Whichever space you've entered, find breath there. Opening through the front of the body, opening into the front of the hips and the chest. And wherever you are, slowly lower yourself back down. Ease your way down. We're gonna come into a counter pose. Pull your knees into your chest. Now you could stay right there, or you could lift your hips up and come into a plow pose. And if that's something that you don't feel quite ready for, just keep your hips on the ground and keep your knees pulled into your chest. Maybe your feet hit the ground behind you, maybe they don't. Give yourself a few breaths wherever you are. Keep your gaze straight up to the ceiling. Try not to move your neck from side to side. And then slowly come out of this. Roll all the way down, lie on your back. Stretch your legs long and heavy in front of you. Bring your arms to your side, or you could bring one hand to your belly, one hand to your heart. And we take a few final moments just to come back to your breath. Notice, acknowledge any shifts you may feel, maybe physically, maybe mentally. Thank you for joining us. And that's your flow.